then say continue. Yes, we are on a recording mode here, just in the interest of sharing the recorded session with the people who want to revisit the session, what happened here in the first virtual session for the machine learning. An official good morning to everyone. At the start of this class, I see 40 participants, including me. That's amazing. But yes, let's proceed with the task. If you remember, we talked about machine learning, the learning methods or the types, and they are like say the supervised, unsupervised, and reinforcement learning. In the last class, we touched upon these three things, and then I said I'll take a break here, and then I said when we meet again, we will be revisiting with something called as what these concepts are called as, and that is where my focus would be for now to take you guys with a concept called as the supervised, unsupervised, and the reinforcement. Right. Let's look at the supervised learning here, which is designed for you guys. When I say supervised learning technique, this is a technique. I have something here in the Indian business application. First, let us look at the applications, the prediction, and then we will come back and then see what is that we are talking about as a type. Okay. I would like to focus on an example here right now. If you see, I have an example which is talking about predicting whether a customer will default on a loan based on income, age, and credit history. If I want to figure out, if I want to predict the customers, the list of customers like Manju, Arman, Divya. Now, more specifically, I'm talking about the names of the customers. Is it possible for a bank to predict the customer who is likely to be default? Yes, answer is yes. Everybody says there is no answer called as no these days because of the ML and the AI. But when you say yes, how is that? Now, when you look at the example here, we are talking about the parameters like income, age, and then the credit history. If I have the details of the loan customers with a variable like income, age, and credit history, it is possible to predict which customer or the list of customers who is likely to be default on the taken loan, on the loan which they have taken. And this is possible. And that is why I'm starting with the example here saying that it's possible. Now, when you say here, we have a income, age, and a credit, you're seeing right now one, two, three as the variables. Now, these are the labeled data. When you have a labeled data, you're trying to build a relationship which is nothing but the default on loan with these three variables. You see here, you have a labeled data. When I say labeled data, which means that more specific. Income is a specific data, age is a specific data, credit history is a specific data, and the target is the default loan. When we have a specific data in a systematic way, the columns and the rows, we are calling it as a labeled one. And that is the example which I would like to quote first this morning. And then let's look at something called as the application. We are doing a reverse engineering to understand what the learning types are called as. We are not reading from the top, right? We first saw the example, and now we are looking at the applications in Indian context. Now, if you see in the case of a banking, banks like SBI, HDFC, ICICI, and there are big list of banks. They are now working on the machine learning and the kind of application. What they do is loan approval prediction, approve or reject. Now they have come up with a model. They have come up with a model, these banks, and the model will be helping the banks to decide whether to accept the loan or reject the loan application. So therefore, loan approval prediction is what so popular in the case of the banking industry, and that is where you will say the supervised learning is in place. Supervised learning is in place. Excellent. Now, if you see the e-commerce industry, it is not necessarily only for the banks. We have our e-commerce industry also. Companies like say Flipkart, Amazon India. I'm mentioning here Amazon India. What is it they predict? They are predicting whether a user will click on a product, whether user will click on a product. That is the kind of a prediction what they are doing, the e-commerce industry. And they are going with again supervised learning. Apart from banking, apart from say e-commerce, let's look at the Apollo hospitals, which comes under the healthcare. What is that they do? This is prediction from medical test results. So what are we trying to understand here? We are trying to understand that we are focusing mainly on the prediction with a specific data for a specific industry. For a bank, the loan is a big product. Default is a big task. Default on the loans. They are trying to apply ML on that. If you talk about the e-commerce, they are really concerned about saying that what are the efforts they are making in terms of clicking on a product, user click on the product. They are trying to predict that. If you go to the Apollo hospitals, yes, they have the system where this is prediction is possible from the medical test results. Now, when we are saying that these are the examples, how are we achieving this? You should have asked me the question saying that, hey, Manju, tell me how is that we are achieving these things? How is that we are, how is that we are capable of predicting something in the banking industry, in the e-commerce industry, in the healthcare industry? It is possible with the help of these two. These two are the popular techniques. I believe you should be really strong, very strong, very, 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 very strong when you talk about the techniques, when you put these keywords in the resume. What does it says? One says regression and the second one says as classification. You see here for the regression, I'm saying it predict the continuous values. For a classification, it predict categorical outcomes. Now, when I say continuous values, what does it mean? When I say categorical outcomes, what does it mean? Now, I'll just go back to the example of a banking industry. We know that we are trying to talk about the bank loan default. And we will call something called as target variable. We will call something called as target variable. Don't worry about this word if you don't understand. Just understand something called as dependent variable. I'm not talking about the basics of a dependent and independent variable. Why? Because I believe you already studied in the second semester. Just in case, if you don't remember, no problem. No problem. In my process, you will be made sure that you will be understanding these things. Okay. Now, the dependent variable is very clear. It's a loan status. Loan status. When I say loan status, default, yes or no. Whether the customer was default or no, on the basis of the historical data I'm talking about. Now, when you have a variable which is going with yes or no, this is called as a categorical outcome, yes or no. That's it. If you're having a target variable as yes or no, what you can do? You can use a classification technique. I know it is a great challenge for the people to understand what is classification and the regression is. This morning, you should be really thankful to the God. God has given us another day where we are alive and then we are trying to learn something new in our life and then progress in our life. Yes, we should be very happy to learn these things, and I'm sure you will be enjoying this. Classification is nothing but if I classify section A, section B against all the student names, I'm talking all the student names. That is called as a classification problem because now let's say I have got 150 students as a whole, section A, section B of your batch, no electricity, no problem. So when I say we have a challenge in terms of looking at the list of 150 students, when we have 150 students, what happens? Now, against the student names, we will be having a gender, we will be having a section A or B, A or B, A or B, A or B. Now, what I would like to do, I would like to segregate the data and then classify the data on the basis of section wise. Here, you're not seeing a continuous variable. And this is called as the classification, which is predicting the categorical outcomes. So you should understand what is a categorical outcome, and that's the only target here for us. I'll take a quick stop here Please confirm me if you are able to hear me and then see me.